Hello, welcome back to From Soft Serve. I got a comment on my last video that was really was a good reminder to show some of the other areas in Dark Souls Re-Remastered that I haven't shown for a little bit, and mostly, yeah, I just want to go through and show where I'm at on the other areas because mostly I've been showing Undead Burg and Firelink Shrine, which obviously are super important areas, but you know, there are other areas. So we start in Anor Londo, which you'll notice I am wearing the fluted knight set from Demon Souls. That is obviously not in my mod. That is actually a Meowritus, I think is the modder. Oh, I don't know how to say the name, but obviously that's the modder. Legendary Souls modder, and has done so much for the community. I'll have a link in the description where you can, it basically replaces the knight set. And it's super cool because I love the fluted knight set. Because technically this armor was actually in the files for Dark Souls Remastered. They had the debug character from Demon Souls basically in the files, which makes sense because Dark Souls 1, I mean, shares so much DNA with Demon Souls because it was obviously right after. But yeah, super cool. So as for Anor Londo, I have finished going through every texture, porting over Prepare to Die edition textures, upscaling them, new normal maps for basically most everything, not everything, but pretty close. And what I am currently doing, well, the most recent change I did is I had to go back through and check with Dark Souls Remastered unmodded and basically see how it was handling the luminance and dark regions so I get a good balance, but then still have sort of the color profile of Prepare to Die edition. So that's kind of still where I'm at. I've done that, and right now, like up till last night, I was going through the model files, like the map pieces. Like this big building is actually the same map piece as that building, and whatnot. And there is an interesting thing that's going on where, like you can see on this floor texture, there it looks like there's depth, right, on the actual like crevices. And of course that is just faked through a normal map, right? Because it's actually like totally flat. And these normal maps, everything in this game has a normal map. That was one of the big upgrades from, you know, DS or Prepare to Die edition to Remastered. The weird thing is that there's a decent chunk of surfaces inside of each map piece that have their bump mapping turned off, which turns off the normal map. It basically just doesn't use it. And that's all controlled through the material settings. When you open the model, it'll actually, you can just add a letter for bump mapping. And then they have S for specular. And that's how they actually handle the different features. And then H is for height map. And that's what turns on parallax if there is a height map. And so it's super cool. It's super easy. And so basically I'm going through each one. There's a ton of model files for each map, but I'm just making sure that bump mapping is turned on for everywhere. And I figured this out because I was in the Painted World. And the Painted World was actually the basically a prototype for Dark Souls 1. And that was the first thing that they showed Bandai Namco, from what I remember. And so that was sort of their proof of concept. And then they ended up obviously liking it and the work that they put into it. So they put it into the Painted World. They created basically the Painted World. So we have Painted World. I'm going to use DSR gadget here. Entrance. Oh, entrance and then bonfire. Got it. So the entrance is when you're on like the bridge. Well, actually, yeah, let's go. Wait, Painted World rope bridge. Oh, okay. Yeah, send me to the rope bridge. Okay. Because in the Painted World, there is something I'm thinking of doing. So the depth of field is pretty strong here, but the trees that are along the you know, periphery here or edge, those are actually all 2D images. They are just aligned to where basically they look like trees, more or less. And my idea would be to, I'm thinking I might just be able to steal these trees, because these trees are more geometric. Although you can see sort of the goofiness with how the trees disappear at certain angles because they are their alpha setting, and basically well, not the alpha setting, but which way they are actually set to display. And so the other side, they're like invisible. So kind of goofy. And in the painted world, I've gone through all the textures, restored Prepare to Die edition textures. The only thing I'm noticing here is that the collision handling the lighting on the character, I'm not sure if that's 100% correct. I'm wondering if the character needs to be a little bit darker, so I need to go check the lighting settings for that. But it might be fine. Ooh, we got our Ornstein. What's up, dog? How's it going? And, but yeah, the lighting settings, the luminance, we have bump mapping on a ton more surfaces now. And we also have parallax occlusion mapping that's been added. Oh my god. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm in like New Game +2, I think, on this guy. Yeah, the painted world has like really strong depth of field, and I love the painted world. I still don't really know what to do, and I'm probably just not going to touch it. The surrounding area. Oh, I never picked that up. Nice. The surrounding area beneath this, because basically the painted world area is in this like protruded center portion, and then there's this big, it's almost like a moat. It's just this big gulf around it. And for a while I had filled it with water, but I think I'm gonna look into adding an ice texture, like it was a body of water at some point, because it obviously looks like a moat. It does. It's just this big empty portion, and you know, for most elevations you can't really see it unless you're on like the bridge going towards Priscilla. So there's certainly that. But yeah, I'm happy with how the painted world looks. Like, I think right now I finalized the look in terms of like lighting and the textures, and I fixed most of the bugs. That was in like the last couple releases. So I'm hoping that there's no other bug reports in the painted world, or I don't discover anything. But basically, this area is very, very close to complete. I think the final stage, at least my plan for the final stage, there is a bug here where you'll notice the like shadow X and Y coordinates. They change just a bit. And as far as I can tell, that's not being done through collisions. That's the only way they should be handled when they change like that. Like, there should be a different collision that's here and then here. And there's a different shadow setting, a shadow bank setting of like 1, and then there's 2 here, and that's why it would move slightly. I'm assuming they were doing that to simulate passage of time as you go through the painted world. I don't know. But I've looked at the collisions and they all have the same shadow ID setting, so I wonder if that might be hard-coded, because there are just various things that are hard-coded here and there in DSR, and you kind of just put up with those. So, but no, the final stage for every area will be a comparison with Prepare to Die Edition. Like, I'll do a split screen, and then I can directly compare, and then make the final like calibrations to color balance or luminance, just to make sure that I've actually nailed the Prepare to Die look. I'm wondering if I'm going to come into an instance where I don't prefer the way Prepare to Die looks, but I'm not sure. Like, because I obviously, that's my North Star, and so maybe there'll be a compromise. I don't know. I'm curious, because I think Undead Berg is one where I'm like, I'm not sure if I prefer how it looks. But once again, I think that's just me overthinking it, and I just need to go to what Prepare to Die looks like. And even right now, I'm just thinking it through, where I'm like, no, don't. Just use that as your North Star, and then go towards that. So, yeah, I had to kind of walk myself back from that, because I'm always like, oh, but I could do that. I go, no, be good, make good decisions. So that's like I have to fight between the two people on my shoulder, where I'm like, But thus far, Prepare to Die has obviously been the, ultimate one to go through, and I haven't had any sort of like mental hiccups with that where I'm like, oh, I'd really prefer if no, but I will be doing side by side with each area so I can tune. Let's go to Duke's Archives. Yeah, there's actually something I did in Duke's Archives I didn't talk about in the last update. Duke's Archives is probably my least favorite to work on because it's just a busted area and the lighting settings are weird and it doesn't react the same as other areas. Just really goofy. So, you know, I've altered the lighting settings a bit. I need to do final calibrations with Prepare to Die Edition, but I have gone through every texture. And Prepare to Die ones are ported over. They usually had a lot more contrast and or detail, but usually it's because the Prepare to Die was baking in a lot of its detail into the albedo texture versus putting them into something else. But they've worked perfectly fine in Remastered. And here I re-added, after sort of scrapping this area like a month or two ago, I re-added some extra trees I added along the wall here. I put trees behind it. Yeah, I put some, actually in some other areas that I haven't even checked yet. I've been kind of hopping around. Let me see if I can get into DSR Gadget here with my cursor. Okay, what's the other? There's the Cell Bonfire. Yes. Cell Afterseath. No. Elevator Bonfire. Oh, is that the... Okay. Let's see if we can run from here. Do I remember the Duke's Archives well enough? Actually, while we're here, let me turn off the enemies because this area fucks me up, dude. This place is just the absolute worst. I hate these enemies. I dislike this area. Yeah, Duke's Archives, I still need to tweak like the interior luminance on the character. This area has just been the worst. I don't like it. Oh, here's an example of a Prepare to Die texture. Actually, most of these are Prepare to Die textures, but this is one where it was like genuinely different. This was much more yellowish in Remastered, but now it's back to the OG. So if I remember correctly, I think I run up here. I think. Trying to remember. I think it's back here. No. What's up, dog? How's it going? Okay, and this is an area where I had maintained the baked lighting because stripping out the baked lighting looked like ass. So I undid that. So it's had the baked lighting for quite a while now. Oh, yeah, I think I fucked up. Yeah, this collision I think I still have to kind of mess with because the character is now too bright. Oh, and now the character is too dark. Like, this area is just so fucking busted. I hate this area. It's just, and not like to actually like be in the area, but working on it is not fun because there's a lot of weird, like hard-coded things. They're not hard-coded, but like, well, kind of. There's this room. Okay, maybe I won't find the balcony. Fuck me. I do not. Maybe it's because I haven't unlocked the area. Yeah, this character is on New Game Plus 2 and hasn't even like gone anywhere yet. Yeah, that's probably why. No biggie. Yeah, so this area, when you go down here and you open up that room that has like the ladder and whatnot, that room is set to a completely different lighting setup than every other room, even the room right next to it. It is set to a bizarre lighting ID. And if you ever try to like align them to have the same ID, completely fucks it. And it looks so weird. And there's something with that room, that model file. And interestingly enough, that's actually the same model that in DS Map Studio used to not show up at all. It was invisible because there was some Fiverr file shenanigans going on. But it's so entirely fucked. And I believe when I remember looking at it Prepare to Die, it's also fucked there. So it was basically like it was transferred over of a shit ass file. And so they had to do some real shenanigans. Also, this is, you know, this little overlap here was built into the game as well. This has been in the game forever. And I fixed some of them on this side, but there's still like one over there. The bookshelves like go through. I did fix the big mesh flap like 4 months ago that was here, that was in Prepare to Die edition. So like this has got to be one of their just worst QA areas where there's just shit and it doesn't work, and it's different lighting setups, and it doesn't, the tweaks that I normally make to areas in this game, because I've been modding this game for a long fucking time, does not work here, and it is weird. And so you have to just forget a lot of what you've been doing. It's just ugh. Let's go to Ash Lake. I worked on that a couple days ago, where I re-darkened it because I had it too bright in my modifications. So now it should be back to the luminance that we would expect. All the textures have been checked and swapped over to Prepare to Die and upscaled, and new normal maps in certain areas. And there is going to be a change in my next version. I did alter the Nexus listing to actually require... let me show you real quick. So it's going to require, let me open up my web browser here. It is, let's go to my Nexus listing, Dark Souls Re-Remastered, because when you try to download it, it's now going to tell you, oh God, does my internet work? Yes, it does. Because we are on version 0.87.5. I released a new one yesterday that had some updates and bug fixes and just a little bit. And some of these you'll see in today's video. But when you try to download it, it should pop up a... Okay, maybe not. Oh, maybe not for me. Because they probably go, it's your own file. Okay, well, that's fair. But for everyone else, it should pop up a link where you need to download this, but not the whole mod here. Dark Souls Remastered Visual Overhaul. This is an overhaul from, it was originally updated or uploaded in 2021. I think it was updated last in October, but there's only one thing I need from here. Because there's a lot of cool things. There is the classic bonfire mod, which is cool. And I have had that installed sometimes. And I definitely recommend that if you want the Prepare to Die bonfire, which I do. It's basically the material effect 1.4. All it is the MTD file. You copy that into your Dark Souls Remastered folder, you're good to go. And what that does is it basically changes the water that's here to be reflecting. And as you'll notice in my mod, this was also reflecting water, even without this MTD portion from the remastered overhaul. The reason for that is I had manually gone in and changed this to be the new Londo water, or use that material. And that worked, but it also changed some of the specific settings that were for the Ash Lake water, because it was then using the new Londo water. And so I decided that, okay, I'm going to make people download that material change. And I put this back to the Ash Lake specific water texture because it's more obviously accurate, and well, it's more accurate to the actual vision. They just made it reflecting essentially, which is great. Oh, I forgot I haven't been here on this character yet. I love Ash Lake. This has got to be one of the coolest places in all of gaming. This genuinely blew my fucking mind. Also, I love... Oh, he has no AI. Oh, okay. Well, there's a collision I need to fix. Duly noted. So when you go in here, it like breaks. It turns the character luminance to a weird fucking level. Okay, duly noted. Yeah, Ash Lake has all the textures done. The lighting settings, I just recently altered that again, darkened it, fixed that, fixed any other weird issues I was having. Dynamic shadows are fine. That's all been enabled and worked, and now I just need to do the final comparison with Prepare to Die edition. That is, I mean, I've said it a million times. in this video, but that's the final step, is to just make sure that I align with that. Also, shout out to planar reflections. It's so beautiful, and they're not perfectly accurate, because there's certain things that should like occlude reflections but don't. But I love that essentially, you know, like with screen space reflections, if you tilt the camera enough, it'll stop rendering them because it's obviously not in screen space anymore. And planar reflections are much more accurate, and they're not reliant upon that. And this is also better than cube maps, because cube maps, if you do those for your reflections, which are usually fine, and Elden Ring uses them, and they're obviously, you know, used in modern games quite often. But if you rely only on cube maps, they're usually pretty low resolution, and they're only based at a certain, you know, when you create that cube map, and which is usually fine because these are static objects. So this actually would be a good instance for using a cube map, but planar reflections are awesome and are just, you know, they're more expensive. That's generally why other developers have, you know, moved away from doing them. But yeah, I'm happy with how Ash Lake is looking right now. I just have to do the final check with Prepare to Die Edition and fix that weird collision issue. That is odd. Let's see. Chasm of the Abyss. Well, I don't know about that. Bight Town, Swamp Bonfire. Yes, I did change the... I went through and basically compared with Dark Souls Remastered, the unmodded version, to see if the luminance for Bight Town was too low. And it was. I had some comments that were like, hey, is it meant to be this dark? And it really wasn't. I goofed on a little bit of it. I still think it's darker than what people are going to expect, but here's how it looks. And you can look up and see the trees, and you can see like the distant objects. But when you're down here, you feel very much in the swamp. Now, I have maintained my water that is reflective. That I am still thinking about. One thing I will try is I don't know if I've actually looked at this swamp with the original swamp material setup, and then using this material mod portion of the visual overhaul, because maybe it looks better than what I remember. But I'm open to... I mean, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'll put the swamp back. I'll put the mushy, weird-looking, bog-looking stuff back, because at the end of the day, that's what Prepare to Die Edition looked like. So, yeah. Okay, I just decided on a video, so there you go. And, oh yeah, let's go run in here. Let's see if we can get in here. Because I was finally able to upscale some of the things that were lingering that I had not upscaled yet. And, well, I had, but so basically this texture here, I had actually already upscaled it, but because they had used it on such a wide space, like so much surface area, that even a 2K texture looked kind of like shit. So I upscaled it to 4K, and it now looks a little bit sharper, but it's still used on like a massive surface area. Also, this area has this really annoying shadow thing, so I need to actually update the shadow settings, because I fixed that in other areas. So I haven't quite done that yet. I basically need to create a giant checklist for all areas and go through and finalize like all the collisions, and oh man, it's gonna take a while. But yeah, we have dynamic shadows coming off the big pillars here, and some nice depth of field, and I'm happy with how Bight Town looks with like dynamic shadowing and sort of the brightness, and you can see the Great Hollow up there and a little bit of bloom. Let's go in here, because I finally upscaled it's not perfect, but I upscaled the webbing texture on the side here. I went to like 4K on it, because once again, it's used on a very large surface area. And so I had to really upscale it, because it looked like absolute shit. Like it was real low res. And so now, you know, you actually have a little bit more detail on it. I think it looks pretty good. Let's actually fight Quelaag real quick. Let me, yeah, there you go. All right, we're gonna fuck her up. 2-hand, plus 15 dark sword, and the fluted knight armor. We're gonna jack Quelaag up, which I think this cutscene actually works fine. Most of my cutscenes are bugged in like Undead Burg and other places. That's on the list. I think it's done in the event scripting, so I gotta look into how they're choosing what to render and when. So don't worry, cutscenes are on the list. Oh, I gotta upscale Quelaag a bit. That's also on the list. There's quite a few things of still like character textures. Like you can see how much noise is on Quelaag. I should be able to clear that up. Most of the character textures are like NPCs in this instance. Oh, I forgot her AI is turned off. Most of the NPC textures are already 2K. Like the Asylum Demon is 2K, and he looks pretty good. Maybe, oh, it must just be in the... No, I mean, I guess next to her it's a little kind of low res. And her body... Well, I guess you got to get really close. I like how the camera is sticky, so you can actually walk away a certain distance, but it won't actually go away completely. I can see if I can upscale them to 4K. Oh man, that's nasty. Ooh, I didn't. Yeah, you can notice just how much of it moves. Oh, that's disgusting. Okay, that's a bit of a boob shot. So yeah, pretty cool. Still got some work to do there. Yeah, I need to get a checklist for each area. I'm gonna create like a actual, because I've been doing it all in my head, which obviously is a terrible idea, and I don't recommend that. But I mean, I've still been able to make a lot of progress. I think it's just very on and off. Okay, Sense Fortress. Yeah, Sense Fortress, obviously, the big upgrade lately was the distant view that you can have. And yeah, we got the trees. Those trees have all been obviously swapped out and upgraded, which is really cash money. I had gone through and looked at the luminance for the interiors. So I believe it's a little bit darker than what it used to be in my mod, at least. But you can look up and kind of see the outside. So once again, got to do the final comparison with Prepare to Die, make tweaks there. That's always going to be the final step. But I'm very happy with how it looks overall. I think it's one of the better looking areas. This has been a bug that is just really strange. I don't remember this happening in the unmodded remastered, but I'm assuming it has to be, right? Now this texture here is actually a candidate for upscaling again. I believe I've actually already upscaled these, but Sense Fortress has been an area where they have hard-coded textures that will not upscale correctly. They just won't upscale. You can have a higher resolution version, but it just won't load it, which is always really strange to me. So I basically have to trick it and then create a new texture and then point it towards the different texture, and then it will allow it to be viewed as upscaled. Because this texture, I think, is actually on a large surface area. So even if it is 2K, it might look like this because it's stretched on such a huge area that a 4K upscale, yeah, you can see it's like all over that wall. And also it looks like they might have bump mapping turned off on it because it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of normal map detail. I'll have to double check that. So each area I have to go through and look at every single model and make sure that bump mapping is turned on for everything, everywhere that it can be. What's up, dog? How's it going? And yeah, in terms of dynamic shadows, great. The new distant meshes, I think, mix really well, except for Andre's place. That I gotta fix. I don't know why it's looking like that. The flickering specifically, I know why it's a little bit brighter. That's a setting I have to change. But yeah, really strange, just weird Dark Souls 1 modding stuff that is like, well, that's weird. I don't know why that's the case. I've already checked all the known like potential issues, and none of those worked. So that is strange. So we've gone to Painted World, Sanctuary. Yeah, we can go to the Sanctuary really quick. So Ulil, I have worked on. I think last week. There's a collision problem here that I can easily fix. Yeah, where it's more vibrant and then it goes to like, so that's how they annoyingly have a collision that's like connected to these stones. Really goofy. But yeah, so Ulil, I was looking at the luminance of the different lighting settings to make sure I had it correct. And I actually, let's see if we can run there. We might be able to run there. I added some grass while I was here. But yeah, I converted all the stuff over to Prepare to Die that made sense. Textures that were, genuinely better or more artistically correct. As you can see, the baked lighting is removed here. I do think there's something weird with the character. I think the lighting on the character here is a little not correct. It might be the player lantern that is affecting that. Because I think everything else looks pretty good, but the character doesn't feel like it's being lit in the same way with the certain warmth that you're getting on the enemies. So that's something to look at, because I'm not entirely sure why that's the case. That would be in the collisions again. Yeah, there must be the lighting setting that's in those. Oh my gosh. And hopefully from this you've gotten a sense of just how much goes into this project. Oh, what's up, Calamite? How you doing? I'd love to Calamite you. That's terrible. Don't clip that. Yeah, hopefully you've gleaned how much work actually goes into the density of every area and every lighting setting for every collision, for every map piece, for every object. It's unbelievable. I love the work, I really do. But my God, is it a bit daunting when I think about it. And I'm like, I can't believe I've gotten as far as I have, to be honest, because this is crazy. Crazy project, but I love it, and there's been some great results thus far. If you're wondering about an actual release date for 1.0, I still, in my mind, am thinking, like, hopefully March. Might be April. Kind of depends. That's my current, like, idea. Is more so... Oh, what the fuck is that? Why the hell is the tree that tall? I don't remember there being any tree that's that fucking tall, that far back. Oh. Okay. What the fuck? Are there really trees that are that... Oh, yeah, that's where the bonfire is. There's one tree that's that tall? I don't remember that. Alright, duly noted. Can I go down this? Hell yeah, I can. Thank you. Where's my Chester? What's Chester doing? What's he doing? He's over there. Yeah, I put some grass here. That was like 2 weeks ago, and I just didn't tell anyone. The only thing I don't like is they're not reacting terribly well to the lighting. But I think that, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that's down to the character. Yeah, because I made these objects that I'm actually placing, if I remember correctly. And so you'll notice how the character is lit here is not matching the background. I'm assuming I goofed. Because, yeah, the character is not being lit in the same way. So it looks like it's on a different lighting ID than I want it to be. Okay. Duly noted. What's up, Chester? How's it going? Yeah, okay. So that's how you can tell right now the collision right here is a little goofed because it's basically the thing that controls how the characters look and the NPCs. So the actual map pieces look great. but the actual characters here are being lit by a different lighting ID, and I have to... Ooh, I might steal your little candlestick here for other areas in the game. I forgot about that. I like how it's illuminating the area really well. Ooh, all right. Yeah, let me think about that, Chester. Mr. Bloodborne, or John Bloodborne. So I got a little bit of things to do in Ulil. Definitely not finalized. I'd say Ulil's a little bit, less finalized. But good progress with textures, upscaling, normal maps, removal of baked lighting is all done. So that's been good. Let's go to Northern Undead Asylum. Bonfire 1. I think that's the one that I want to go to, right? Maybe? Yeah. So I did end up removing the grass that was here. As, I don't know, I think it didn't look... I think in certain ways it looked good, in other ways it didn't. So I was on the fence, I was like 50-50, and so I removed it. Because I said, you know what? I don't think it's needed. I think with the snowiness of this area, yeah, I think the grass is not needed. So the grass is gone, and it never looked perfectly right. Like, that grass was not meant for this area. So, and the way that the game handles grass, that specific grass mesh is a bit strange. And yeah, let's go through here. Let's not go talk to Stray Demon. I'm not interested in talking to him. But I'm really happy with how Northern Undead Asylum looks and the depth of field that's being used. I did do a change last night as I was working on it a little bit. And it's actually... so actually, this is another case where the reflectivity of this water is being done now through that remastered visual overhaul material file. And instead of how I was changing it, which was changing it to New Londo water in the material settings, and therefore it would start reflecting. So now it is more accurate to how the water originally looked, but is reflective. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I still need to fix slightly the reflect plane height, because you'll see the sky is just barely being reflected there. Just barely. So if I alter the height of it just a bit, it should take out the sky that you're seeing here, which in here the sky is basically just clouds, realistically. But yeah, so you have correctly shadowed and lit. So let's run through here. We got a Black Knight. What's up, dog? How's it going? Later, nerd. We can actually go see Oscar, which actually shows something I do need to do. It's on the list, which is go through the character textures, because Oscar actually, I've already upscaled the Elite Knight set. But the way that it works is he is actually pulling from a different set of textures. Which is called the character textures, or CHR. There's a separate folder for that, and that's basically where his textures are coming from. And so it actually makes for a really good split screen, in that one of the big differences is you can see the holes on the helm. Because I'm using the Prepare to Die texture, it's actually correct, and they are actually holes, or they look like holes. And in Remastered, they did something really goofy, and they plugged up the holes. I don't know why. To me, that just doesn't make any sense. But you can obviously see the texture upscaling. You can actually see one of the big differences is right below the belt, those weird like rectangular things with like studs on them look so much better in my version, because I made a new normal map, based it on the Prepare to Die texture. So you're just getting a lot more detail, and it's just also way more accurate, and it's a little bit more blue, but you can't see much in here when it relates to that. Oh, there's going to be a ball dropping. Yep. Okay. Almost always forget that. But when I actually, oh, thank God I have that key. That's right. I was like, oh, of course I have that key. Who am I talking about? So now you'll see a change I have here is you'll see it's very, there's no depth of field effect until you step onto this collision. You might be wondering, Why the fuck would you do that? Well, so this distant image that they use here for the surrounding like mountains, they're actually just flat images. And they're actually 2K by, well, they're 2048 by 512 pixel resolution, which, you know, on paper sounds pretty good. And I upscaled it to 124 by 4096. So technically 4K by 1K. And it still looked like ass. And, or no, actually, no, these textures I think are already, yeah, no, I was wrong. Strike that from the record. They're already 4096 by 1024, which you would think, oh, that sounds great. You would be wrong, unfortunately. It still looks like ass because it's basically stretched over such a massive surface area that it actually looks really low resolution. So I'm doing what basically From Software would often do in the Prepare to Die edition specifically. They would blur out areas that are issues. And so basically I just altered the depth of field for this one collision here. So when you step out, you get this nice depth of field effect, but it's only for this area. And I also altered the sky and like the distant mountains were set to a weird fog ID that it looked sort of off where they were standing out versus the sky. And so I, you know, and even Prepare to Die, that's how they were. So I did align them to where basically the distant mountains and the sky actually all match now. They have similar fog IDs. And this isn't unusual for From Software. Even in DS3, there's some objects or map pieces that are set to the wrong fog ID versus the objects that they're around, and that's why they'll look a little weird. That is just a known thing that happens. But yeah, so I changed the depth of field while I was here. And I think it actually looks really nice. It kind of centers you in this outside area while hiding, you know, it's not really hiding this area right down here, but it is hiding the exterior area. Now, the other thing I did is in this room here, I always meant to extinguish the torches in here, make it a little spooky. But when I did that yesterday, this room was still bright, unnaturally so. So, of course, your first idea is, okay, is it set to a different lighting ID that would make it look like that? No. It was set to the same one as all the other interior portions, which is 20. And then I was like, okay, does it not have shadow casting turned on? Because that will also affect it if the light map is removed. And no, it had shadow casting, shadow destination, totally fine. So I was like, okay, so it's not that. Is it using weird textures that are artificially brightened? No, it was using normal textures. And so I ended up getting a little crafty. And I basically just applied a light map to this interior area that was black. And it's actually something From Software has done in many areas where if they just want to artificially darken an area that needs to be darkened, they just apply a black light map and then easy peasy lemon squeezy. And so now when you enter this room, it is actually dark as it should be, but you're lit by your player lantern. It's spooky. You're good to go. It all fits. And so it's been so much fun to really get used to how this game engine works. And you end up getting really creative because this game is honestly put together with like duct tape and baling wire from what I've looked at. So the fact that it runs at all, I think is interesting to me. But I ended up, this is going to be the thumbnail. I got this really like cinematic screenshot that I wasn't even like intending to capture, but it looks fucking awesome. And that will be the thumbnail. So when you see this, you go, aha, cool beans. That's the thumbnail. But yeah, I love it shows off the extra detail, the depth of field, the texture upscales, the specular, the normal maps, just so many of the changes that have been over months and months and months of work. And I'm just, I'm proud. I'm happy. And I love this project because it's my favorite game of all time and my passion for it is never ending. And I spend hours and hours and hours every day working on this. And so I also want to thank you guys for watching and, you know, all the kind things you've said. And I don't know, and all the support and the subscribers. And it's been the joy of a lifetime. So I don't know. I'm honored to work on Dark Souls 1 because I think it is rightfully so one of the greatest games that's ever been made. And so if I can have even a small part to play in, you know, longevity of the game, if in the future, I don't know, people can go, hey, here's a mod that makes the textures better, but I want to honor Prepare to Die edition. And so that's kind of the ultimate like North Star of this, what became of this project. You know, it didn't start out that way. But when I started working on the Prepare to Die edition, I'm sure everyone was like, damn it, go back to your remastered mod. I'm actually really happy I started working on Prepare to Die edition because that's what led me to overhaul this remastered mod and make it a love letter to the Prepare to Die edition. And yeah, so just thank you for joining me on the journey. We're getting close. Maybe April. Maybe March if I'm really good. But I do have a Patreon, a coffee, if you want to support the development of the mod. Any money basically just allows me to work on it more without having to make money in other ways. So it's never, you know, expected or required. But if you want to, there are options. And Patreon, you at least get ad-free versions of these videos. And you get faster downloads of my mods, because this mod has grown from like 512 megabytes up to now it's like 8 gigabytes worth, mostly textures, obviously. But it has grown in size, and it will continue to get a little bit bigger. It's bigger than the original game, which it's just really down to textures at this point. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.